What's up everyone, guys? Can you believe it that it's already been 2 months since the iPhone 11 Pro was released? It's actually been a little bit over 2 months at this point, and I picked mine up the same day that it came out. And what I can tell you is throughout my usage of it, I've had a lot of ups, I've had a lot of downs, but ultimately to kind of sum up my whole entire synopsis of using it for the last 2 months, I'm like, dude, I love my phone. Like, I love this iPhone, and what I'm really happy about is that there weren't really too many crazy issues with this new iPhone. There were some, and some things that kind of irked me the wrong way, but overall, I mean, I literally love this phone, and I think it is a pretty decent upgrade coming from the iPhone 10 that I was coming from before. Now, it's definitely not perfect, like I said, and also, like, don't feel like you need to upgrade or you have to upgrade. Like, if I didn't have this YouTube channel, if I didn't have to make these videos, I honestly would not buy this phone at all. I would stick with my iPhone 10 or even go for a 10s or 10R or probably even a 10s Max. I'm probably gonna get the 11 Pro Max again probably, but those are still tremendous phones as well. But one of the biggest things about the iPhone 11 Pro that honestly Apple hyped it up and a lot of people hyped up, but sometimes I never really trust what a lot of other people say because sometimes they don't use the phones or sometimes they just need another talking point. But I will say the biggest difference that I've seen coming from my iPhone 10 to my iPhone 11 Pro would definitely be the battery life, okay? And after using it for the last couple months, actually within the first, I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I switched back to my iPhone 10 because that had the battery case at the time, and Apple just released their new battery case. But I was like, you know what, this probably will have better battery life than this phone, and I wasn't even complaining about the battery life at that point for the 11 Pro, but I just wanted to see, because I already had my 10, I was like, all right, I might as well switch back to it. As well as the storage, I had 256 on that. But even with the battery case on my iPhone 10, I realized that my iPhone 11 Pro was pretty close to it. And even yesterday, I ended the day with like 66%. And every day, I'm literally over like 60%, which is pretty insane. I would be about 20% on my iPhone 10, and on some days, I would be about like 70% on my iPhone 10, even with the battery case. So it would use all the 100% of that battery case. Then it would use about 70% of my battery. So this phone definitely has one of the best battery lives that I've used in a phone. And I mean, I'm so happy about it. It's one of the best things about this phone for sure. And if you were to go to upgrade, I mean, definitely the 11 Pro Max is going to have the better battery life out of the two. But this phone, dude, I'm so happy about it for sure. One of my biggest compliments for sure. Now, you guys know this camera module on this one has increased and improved as well. And I honestly don't really care too much about cameras. The only times I really care is when I'm doing my camera comparisons. But right now, I actually realized how much of an improvement these cameras actually do have. So let alone even that ultra wide sensor, just the sheer quality of those photos are super nice. And when I was even comparing like my iPhone XS or even iPhone 8 Plus to this specific camera, I'm like, dude, this camera is super good. It's super detailed. It has a lot going for it. And that's just the quality, let alone the ultra wide sensor. And there are some cases where like the older photos might look better, but dude, ultimately what I can tell you is the cameras are a pretty big improvement whether you like it or not. There are some quirks though, like I stated, like I still think it's way overpriced for what you're getting. I think the used prices are still pretty high, so good for current owners. If you have an iPhone 11 Pro and you're planning on reselling it, that price will definitely stay intact. You know, iPhones tend to do a lot better in the resale department. It does scratch super easily, so no matter what everyone says or what anyone says, it does scratch super easily. Both my 11 and my 11 Pro and actually my 11 Pro Max as well, so all three of those have scratched super easily by literally just breathing on them, they scratch. So that's one issue right there. That's one thing that I'm not really happy about. And I scratched it up like the first week I had it, and ever since then, like, it's been scratched up. Obviously, it's not going to be fixed, and that's one thing that sucks because those scratches are going to follow with me throughout the whole entire life of the phone and when I resell it and all that stuff. So, but I probably won't resell it. I'll probably end up keeping it, but it's still kind of weird. Now, this might be more of an iOS 13 problem, but not only does this phone kind of glitch up from time to time, which I'm already expecting, you know, I study iOS for a living. I know how these things work, but sometimes, you know, there's a lot more stutters and a lot more issues that I've had with this phone versus like my iPhone 10, for example. And one thing that I've noticed, I don't know why this happens all the time, but the camera app will just automatically turn on in my pocket, and every time I take my phone out, not every time, but sometimes, like, it'll automatically be on the camera app, which is so weird. Like, the phone's not unlocked or anything, but it's just like swiped out or whatever. Like, it's just so weird. And I think it's an iOS 13 glitch, but I've had it happen more times on this phone than any other phone that I've owned, which is really weird. Throughout my experience, I realized that Face ID is actually, so those are some of the quirks, but I kind of want to hit on a couple more happy things about this phone. Now, Face ID definitely is faster, I think, coming from a 10s or even an iPhone 10. So those are things that kind of made me a little bit happy. It's still not instantaneous. It's still like a little bit of a stutter, and I still don't think it's perfect. It messes up all the time, but it's good enough, and it's definitely an improvement from the iPhone 10 that I was using before. And in terms of the speed, it definitely is faster than the previous generation, especially even at the iPhone 10. I've already done all this speed comparisons and everything, but I definitely do think from day-to-day use, I do notice it a little bit, like the speed improvements, but I don't think it's something that like, oh my god, my iPhone 10 was so slow. Like, I just noticed it being a little bit faster. Like, sometimes when I'm like in a hurry and I swipe up and I need to get Safari and things, it usually matches up with how fast I'm tapping the things, if that makes sense. So with the iPhone 10, it's like I kind of had to wait like a millisecond before I tapped on something because I knew it was going to take a second for it to unlock. But it's almost like as soon as I'm thinking of something, like, okay, open the swipe, oh, open this app, go here, go here. It's like almost instantaneous, if you know what I mean. So that's probably not even going to make sense to you, but now, overall, I mean, I like it. I think it's definitely one of the best phones right now, and especially one of the best iPhones that I've used in like the recent times. The battery is probably the number one thing that I noticed, dude. I was not even expecting this battery life to be that good. I mean, it was like a 3,000 milliamp hour battery. I was like, my iPhone 6 Plus had a 3,000 milliamp hour battery. My 7 Plus had a 3, like I wasn't expecting it to have that great, but it's definitely one thing that I noticed right out the back, and I love it so much for that. So if you're on a budget, I would highly recommend not picking up this phone. I would recommend picking up a used 10s or a 10R or even a 10. Those phones are super cheap. I'll even link some in the description below from Amazon so you guys can help support the channel at the same time. But if you're not on a budget or anything, dude, the 11 Pro, it's a very good phone. It's one of the best phones you can get right now. And I'd never really said the same thing with like my iPhone 10 or my iPhone 10s. I'm saying them now. But at that time, I wasn't really saying it. And dude, the 11 Pro definitely is one of the better phones that I've purchased. But I can tell you my experience with the 11 Pro so far has been very, very good for the last 2 months. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that will mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it'll mean so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. All those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.